Hey guys, so this is my first foray into making YouTube videos, so a brief introduction is necessary. My name is Gavin Whelan. I'm a CG generalist, CG supervisor, and I've been doing 3D for over 20 years. And I've been working in VFX for TV for close to 10 years now. I've worked on a bunch of different shows and all sorts of different types of VFX shots, and I'm going to share some techniques I've been developing for modeling buildings in Tyflow. So I've been meaning to do this for a long time. I just did a live stream for Substance. I put a link in the description below, and I showed a workflow to create high-rise buildings using Tyflow. I showed a lot of the Substance workflow, but not so much of the Tyflow workflow. I've been messing around with making buildings in Tyflow for a little while now, and a lot of people, mainly on the Tyflow Facebook group, have been asking me to do a tutorial. So here it is, my first tutorial, Parametric Buildings with Tyflow. I hope you like it. Hey guys, so there's a few things I wanted to explain about my scene setup and the way I did this before I dive into the actual Tyflow. This is geo I ripped from Google Maps using a Blender plugin. I'll put a link in the description below. The scene is set up in centimeters, and I scale the Google Geo to match the real world scale of the building as closely as I could. The measurement I came to, I didn't know the exact measurement of this facade. This is like my little one of my small assets here for this center facade was 585 by 380, and most of the building, the scale of the building will be based around that scale. The main difficulty I ran into making this building and just these types of buildings in general was sort of the sheer amount of facades that you see on something like this. So you have this main central facade here, then you have the corner, different types of glass, then you have an additional rooftop corner facade. Then this is kind of a different type of one here with this thing here. It's like you'd have to look at the reference. It is sort of an indent. Another one here. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then down here you have another 2 different types of corner facades, and then another 2 here. So you have a total of 10 facades, and that's not even including this is the lobby over here and the parking lot. So each of those different facades have to be defined within the Tyflow graph. Another thing to help me kind of organize the scene, and this is the way I kind of helped organize it, I have a compass in here from a daylight system. So I'm using north, south, east, west to arrange the directions of the buildings, different building faces. I won't go into too much detail on the assets, but I would say that make sure all of the pivots are set, all of the X forms are reset, and that your assets are organized nicely. It'll sort of reward you later in the project if you sort of know where everything is. A couple of other tools I used were render stacks by my friend Cheng Su. It's really cool. It's really easy to kind of switch between different scene setups, and you can also set up your render passes if you're using that. And then I like this thing, Render Stacks Mini. You can just kind of put it up there, and it's quite nice and neat. And the other one I used is PureRef for all the reference for my building, which is really cool. Some Google stuff there. You can just paste stuff and drag stuff directly from your browser into it. And so let's get started. Okay, so here we are. So the first thing you're going to want to do is simply create a box the size of your building. It doesn't have to be perfect straight off, but because you can just change it at any time. So let's see, just get it centered on that. That'll do. The height. And so there we go, a box. So I'm going to turn off the Google stuff, and let me just put this compass in here so you can see it. So we can see the compass again. So I'm going to start with the west face. So let me call this building master, and we're going to create all the different directions of the facing directions from this building. We're going to use references. So I'm going to do the first couple, and then I'll skip ahead to one I made earlier. So I'm going to use a reference. I'm going to call this east, and I'm going to invert that and add a shell. So I can probably just put it at the default. Just copy that. I'm going to do. I'll do the roof as well. So you're going to want it to have the 6 sides of the cube or the box. I'll call this roof, and I'm just selecting the face and then inverting the selection and then pasting the shell as the instance. So you can see there I have these kind of two pieces, and the point being that if I change the scale of this object, those objects will sort of follow along with that. So if I just turn this one off, I'll go into this one. This is say one I made earlier. So you have east, I have east, north, roof. That's west, east, south, and ground floor. So those 6 objects. The first thing we're going to want to do is create our Tyflow. So let's just do that. Open up the graph, and I'm going to go birth voxels. And before you do anything, you're going to want to use this 585 by 380. So go 585, and the height is going to stay the same. Turn that off. We're going to go 380. So right now we haven't actually selected the object. We'll just leave it at this, so we have 585 and 380. So I'm going to select the building master, add, and see all these particles kind of. So we only want one line of these. We don't want all of these yet. So what I'm going to do is, what I've done is I usually set this up really high, so set that to like 6,000. And so what I'm left with is just that one line of particles that you see here. And I can actually, let me just leave that in wireframe mode so you can kind of see. So you can see each one of these particles basically has that measurement. And the first thing we want to basically project all those particles up against this west face. So let me do this. I'm just going to call this west. And the first thing we want to do is add a position raycast. So into the position raycast, we're going to add the west object. And it doesn't do anything immediately because it needs a directional, it needs one of these. So this is tie icon one, this is pointing in this direction. I'm going to delete this just to show you. you can use this, it'll create a new icon. It'll come down here. I'm going to make this really large so that it's easy to see. I'm going to line it over with these other objects, and I'm simply going to point it west, and you can actually see it's working there. So it's pointing that there, and if you go projected from origin object, now you have those particles projected onto that object, onto this object. If I actually move this object, you'll see those particles moving along with that object. And if I go into the original object, actually I can use this FFD that I put on it. It will just move along with the source object. So I'm going to want to create a west, north, east, south, whichever way you want to look at it. But first we're just going to I'll show you the how the objects get set up. If I turn on my assets here, this is our primary asset right here. So these 12 different assets are going to get scattered around initially. So I'll show you, I'm just going to add a shape node. And I'm going to add this thing. Now if I simply switch to display it in geometry, you'll see that it's kind of, let's see, oh, did I add it? Yeah, I have to delete this one. So this is one thing you need to do, is change the scale. You can also add in a scale node after here. So if I were to put that back to the way it was, I think this was turned off. Put it in a scale node, it defaults at 100%. You can just do that, and it'll do that. Now, I just wanted to show you that's one way of doing it with using the shape node. We'll call it a problem. It's just the way I decided to do it. Is you can go ahead and you can add the rest of these. It's not going to look any different because they're essentially it's the same object, but they've all got a different. They have a different texture on each one. But I decided to use an actor prop setup. Get the Tyflow just so I can move the. So right now this is our building so far, just this facade. So I decided to use an actor prop setup, and I'll show you how I did that. And there's a few sort of advantages, there's a couple of disadvantages. So let me turn that off. I'm going to add put that here, and if you go under helpers, Tyflow, Ty actor, so you can see I have this similar setup. What layer am I on? I'm going to want to put, for the purpose of the tutorial, I'm just going to put that in here, and so I'm going to want to create a Ty actor, align that to here, and I'm going to create a Ty prop. Now the Ty prop is going to contain all your the assets that you're going to use. So to add these, you can click on this pin stack, select all these guys, and add selected, and then so again, gonna try and name everything. I'll turn off this Ty actor, and the actor, you select the prop. and then back in the flow, you can remove the default. You can do it a couple of ways. So you can do that, and then just add selected, and then it just puts it back. And so essentially, it's going to look nearly exactly the same as if you do that, right? The advantage to doing it this way, there's a couple, is that you can add more objects into this setup without having to go into your flow, and it just keeps things a little bit more organized. You'll see here, if I just add this box in here, now this is going to kind of screw things up. I just want to see it anyway. I'm going to add this box into the here. So I added that box now. Now you can see it's basically put that in here. Now I don't necessarily want that, but you can sort of see what it's doing. The other advantage is if I create another prop, let me just duplicate this prop. I'm going to move it over here, and I'm going to call this one test boxes, right? And in this one, let's see, move all, pick, and so look at the box, and in this actor, I'm going to select that second prop. And now you can see that you can kind of stack up, you can kind of create a sort of an array of objects within this little setup. So this is kind of where I would use a setup to do things like AC units on the surface of things. Now here's the other advantage. The prop's placement within the actor are in the position is relative to the actor here. So if I move that around here, you can see it moving here. If I rotate it, right, scale it, this and that. So I can, if I wanted to have like an AC unit on the surface of this building, I could do something like this. This is kind of really rough. Say that we're an AC unit. If I instance, and you can also instance this. So this is, let's say this is an instance, and I then select this. So now you'll see I have two kind of these objects here, and if I want to add more objects to this, let's see, this is going to look a bit weird, but we'll add it anyway. Pick the teapot, and now we have a teapot in the setup, and it's also, because it's instanced, we have a kind of a full sort of setup here. I think can we change the, you can't change the seed here, so you'd have to change the seed in the actor to kind of get sort of alternate versions. So that's just something I wanted to share. Now this is, I'm not going to use any of these additional props for this part of it. I do that extensively for the interiors, so the different walls, the different ceilings, because you can get these objects can all have the same pivot. But if I wanted to move this up here and have this sort of facing a different angle, you could use your ground and your ceiling and your walls can all have the same pivot, but you can use the prop, the rotation of the prop in reference to the actor to rotate objects and place objects, complicated arrays of objects within a scene. And so that's something for me that's the main advantage. Now you can also use a collection. I haven't used them. collection it's kind of like sort of another level of organization that you could use. So your collection, if I were to, let's see, just put this here. So this is going to be my collection. Now this doesn't affect the position of the collection in reference to the actor, does not affect your Tyflow. But if I go into here and I, let's say, remove all of these guys, and I use in my collection, and I select these props, I think there's the other prop, select these props and I add them, and then into my actor I pick the collection, it'll essentially do the same thing. So what the uses for this I would see certainly in this setup would be that you could have a setup where you would have, like, you know, this one would be building facades, this one would be AC units, you could have another one that would have, you know, dangling wires, or, you know, like birds, pigeons on the surface. I don't know why that's not instancing, but anyway, I haven't used them, but again, it's not really set up for doing buildings, so there you go. So let me just delete these other ones and we'll sort of move forward. So delete these test objects and pick my prop again, and now we're back to here. So the first thing we're going to want to do, we're going to select one edge of this, one side of this building. We're going to delete one side and we're going to turn one side into the corner facade. So what you want to do, you're going to start using the these objects. So I'm going to use this object to send out the corner particles to a different, these side particles to a different event. So the way I did it, I used the surface test. I'm going to do 2 surface tests in here, and let's leave it here. So this one's going to be corner, and I'm going to have another one that's going to be called delete. So delete, we'll put a delete node in here, and here we are going to want to put another actor prop actor thing. So let's see here, where's my actor? So here's my actor set up. 2 things here. So here's my the actor with all the corner facades. This isn't set up already. I'm going to go into here, actor, and go, so move, add selected. Oh, I'll say the other thing about the other advantage I like about the actor is that you actually don't need to use this scale thing usually, because you only have one thing here, one node in here, and you can have more. It's easier to just set your scale there, so you don't actually need this scale node. So for I put my actor in here, I've chosen my corner. I'm going to use my surface test here. I'm going to add the north-facing object here to send out the particles. So let me turn these off, and I'm probably going to want to set this up to maybe, because it was like, say, 585. If I set it to about 300, it should send those particles. So there, it sent those to another event. Now, again, advantages, disadvantages of the actor. The way the actor works is it keeps the rig and the child in the same node. So to do this, you just need to send this out, out to another node. So I'm going to send this out to a mesh node. Well, this should fix that. If I turn off that, so now this is going to be, all this is doing is sending this out. So we're going to be sending all of the particles to a lot of this. You'll see that the stuff will link to the same node. Now we want to do the same on the other side. So to delete, we're going to select, I can select this stuff just from here. So I'm going to select the south, add, set this to about, let's see, I'll just make sure so you can see it happening. Set that, and now it's just going to delete that particle. So that is our kind of first sort of setup. So we're going to want to do that for all of the north, south, east, west. The last one you would do is to send the send out the remainder particles, which are is the central facade, to another node, which will then, these are like the central, let's say call them central facades. These will then get split out to the rooftop and the ground floor. And but let's just, I'm going to skip forward, but I'll show you just something to note. Let me copy this. So copy and paste. I'm going to call this one, we'll do this, make this one north. And the one real difference here is you're going to swap, just simply swap two settings in the thing. Let me just turn this off. Two settings in the voxel. You're going to swap these two. So if I go here, copy this here, and make this one 585. So those are still being projected to that one side. I'm going to want to project those particles to the north object. So let me remove that. I'm going to select my north. Where's my north object? This one. Right, so I'm selecting this north to make those project onto that side. And then if I go into wireframe mode, so these were some of these tie icons that will get created automatically if you use this create new icon. But here's my icon here. I should have named these. So north, and pick that icon, and now you're going to see those particles will get projected onto that side. Now you'll see they're still obviously rotated incorrectly. So here I'm going to rotate, hit enter, hit enter. And by default it's going to do that random 3D. Just going to set inherit previous and rotate this by, I think it's, let me see, it's going to be, yeah, it's going to be minus 90. Minus 90. So turn that on again. You can see kind of the building starting to sort of come together. We're going to want to, for this corner, I'm going to want to select, and I'm going to pause it because my kid is back. Okay, this corner, I'm going to want to select the east. So I might speed this up a little bit, and then I'll come back and explain what I've done. But as we go, I'll just continue moving forward and blathering away. So this is kind of where I start talking again after that speed up, and you can see pretty much here we kind of have the whole building. Let me see if this switches. The reason we're getting this kind of sort of weird sort of pattern here is because we have the glass is just, the geo is just super close together. But essentially now we can have this sort of whole building. Now when we go to, we don't have the roof here, I'll show you some stuff to do that afterwards. But if we go back to our, turn on the master building, the spacing of this building needs to be, if you do it with just the box, if you do it here by scaling these here, you're going to get kind of an inconsistent result. You might be able to find something that looks correct, but by chance. But the problem is that you're scaling it in two sides at once. They're, one part is going this way, one part is going this way. And so to do it correctly, you should use just this FFD. And this will just scale it. Alright, so if we scale this, so there you go, right? So it can't just be any length. I think Railclone will scale some of the assets based on their position. Here it's not scaling the small asset. So if we find that's kind of working, let's see if it's working on the other side. That's working on, it's all sort of working together. So now we have kind of what looks like kind of a complete building, just a little bit more. So I'm gonna just, let me put in a note thing here. So I'm gonna say, add a note. I'm gonna say to just explain that. Don't need that. Just so this is rooftop center. So I'm going to copy this guy. This is going to be, it's going to be B. Just to disable this while I'm doing this, so go a bit faster. This is ground floor. It's going to be C. This is send out. This is my corner. This is going to be D. This is going to be E and F. So now we kind of have something fairly complete that we can use in another, as another flow, as another birth flow. So if I enable this, I'm going to, let's see, rename this guy. Building exterior. I'm just creating a new flow in here. And this one's going to be, click here to select it. And this one is going to be building interior. Now I'll probably finish up this tutorial just with a basic overview of this. I might just do, it'll be a lot of the same stuff, but I just want to show this because it's sort of cool. So select birth flow, and in birth flow I'm going to select the building exterior. So it's just going to double up that. You're going to see the same thing. So if you load this, you load it, do a birth flow, you then have access to all of the different facades that you've been using, that you've designated within This is loading in the center facade for the corner, and I don't know why. It's doing the same there. But it doesn't really matter, because essentially you're going to replace that piece with something else. So to just give you a quick example of where I use this, we're going to use the we can actually use the top floor, and we'll use the here. And the way I set up, let's see, find the let's see, we'll do the interior walls. So just to show you here, I've got a prop, I've got an actor, I've got a prop here. So this one here is called ceilings. So you can see there, it's up here. Go local. So you can see the local. So it's rotated. You can see this one is interiors left. So it's the left wall. Interiors right. So you can see the pivots are changing there. If I add that actor into the setup, and let me just switch to something that you can see, switch out of clay mode, and we'll go to let's call this rename. Interior offices. Going to add an actor. I should have that one still, this thing still selected, and I can this guy add. And then we have to do this split out. So we basically add a mesh. I should do this. Okay, there we go. So now you can see all of the different. You can see that the ceiling here has a little bit more geo for the lights. Still really simple geo. And so we can. The way I did it was I would just copy and paste these guys. And here's another one for, let's see, where's the furniture? This is my furniture. Oh, this is my furniture here. So I put out quite a lot of furniture, and these are all props. So I'm going to add this guy. So have it selected just so you can see over here. And go back to our building here. And go to remove and add selected. Link this into here. And now we have all of there's a lot of furniture in there, but it sort of adds to the detail inside the office. And so part of the thing with doing this, just to explain again the whole thing of the props, I select these here. So it's randomizing all these things. Each prop is randomizing between all these different things here. So if I see this kind of standing lamp here, and then this thing over here is all these monitor kind of looking things. So that'll be this over here. If I move this up, everything on that side should move up. It's going to go a little bit slow because, so there you go, right? So and this just gives the level of flexibility and sort of control over the way you assemble the assets, the buildings that I really like. I had I have another thing set up for blinds and window dressing and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to look at a couple of renders here that I did. You can see this is essentially what the final renders look like. I'm not going to go into the material setup or anything like that, but it's just a PBR. You can see kind of how I did it in the substance demo. I was able to kind of switch out have different assets, switching those out, That's my reference. These are just some of the different test renders I did with the building, and so these are, so you can see the interiors of the building, you can see all those different monitors. It's essentially how I did it, and it's pretty effective. All these monitors in here, it kind of works sort of surprisingly when you look at the geo for it. It just looks so kind of crummy, and you wouldn't necessarily expect it to look that effective. And then these are just some of the materials. Yeah, so there's a kind of a versatility. You see this building here and this building here, essentially kind of the same building. I just kind of actually have this kind of doubled up, so you get these kind of metal things on the side of this. So you can start mixing it up and making sort of alternate looking buildings. And again, I would have a big, almost like a sheet, a swatch of all these different sort of parts of the building that I'm selecting. I didn't go into kind of how you would set up the roof, the rooftop with sort of AC units and whatnot on the roof. Maybe another time. Hey guys, I hope you liked the video. Hopefully it won't be my last tutorial. I suppose I should say subscribe. I have 1 subscriber so far, Morris Abraham. Thank you. And hopefully there'll be more tutorials and videos to come. So thank you. Bye.